Imagine you're scrolling through your social media feed, maybe, or perhaps you're in a meeting at work, and you find yourself only really nodding along, paying attention to the stuff that perfectly matches what you already believe. You might even catch yourself dismissing things that challenge your views, almost, like automatically. Does that sound familiar? I think we've all been there, probably more often than we realize.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really interesting is that this isn't just some random habit or, a personality quirk. It's actually your brain running on these super efficient but often flawed mental shortcuts. We call them cognitive biases. Our brains are built for speed, you see, not always for accuracy.
Exactly. And these shortcuts, they're like these subtle, almost invisible forces that quietly mess with our daily decisions. Whether you're making big choices at work, trying to navigate relationships, or just making sense of all the news flooding your inbox, these biases are always there, humming away in the background. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Right. Our deep dive today is going to unpack 5 of the most common, most impactful cognitive biases. We're drawing heavily from Daniel Kahneman's Nobel-winning work, Thinking Fast and Slow. That book really changed the game in understanding how we judge things and make decisions. It showed how our intuition, while powerful, can seriously lead us astray sometimes.
It's such a foundational piece of work for understanding ourselves and, honestly, other people too. So our mission for you today is pretty straightforward. We want to shine a light on how you can spot these common mental traps. We'll explore their real-world impact, which can be surprising, and crucially, give you some simple, practical tools. Tools to help you kind of upgrade your thinking in everyday life. Think of it as a little guide to outsmarting your own brain. Ready to dig in?
Let's do it.
Okay, kicking us off, let's talk about confirmation bias. We sometimes call it the echo chamber effect.
Mm.
And man, is it easy to fall into this one.
It really is a big one, especially now. Basically, your brain naturally seeks out information that confirms what you already think is true. And at the same time, it subtly, almost unconsciously, filters out or just ignores anything that contradicts those beliefs. Like your mind has this little internal yes man constantly saying, yep, you're right. Makes you feel smart, validated.
It totally does. And
Yeah.
it's so comforting, isn't it? Like, think back to that social media example. You follow accounts that echo your opinions. You share articles that back up your stance. It feels good to be surrounded by agreement.
Mhm.
But in doing that, you're kind of accidentally building this echo chamber around yourself.
Oh, really?
So what's the real downside? What's the consequence of living in that self-affirming bubble?
Well, the implications are pretty significant. Kahneman's research and loads of studies since show just how powerful this fast-thinking flaw is. Estimates suggest it sways nearly 70% of online beliefs. 70. Yeah, think about those really heated debates you see, maybe online, maybe at the dinner table, where facts just seem to bounce off people because they don't fit the story they already believe. That's not just stubbornness, it's our brains actively trying to protect our view of the world, even if it means ignoring objective truth. It can lead to polarization, makes us resistant to new ideas, and frankly, it just breaks down useful conversation.
70% that's a massive number. It really makes you think how easily our own minds can shape our reality. So what's a practical way for you, the listener, to actually push back against this?
Good question. The fix, or at least a strategy, is deceptively simple, but needs conscious effort. Make it a habit to actively seek out just one counterview each day. Maybe you deliberately read an article from a publication you normally wouldn't, or listen to a podcast with a totally different take. The goal isn't necessarily to change your mind every day, but just to expose your brain to different ways of thinking.
Okay, so just one small step. Why does that matter so much? What's the payoff for doing that?
Because it builds mental flexibility, mental resilience.
Yeah.
That small, consistent action forces you to engage with different perspectives. It leads to more balanced thinking, and, importantly, it helps you build smarter, stronger arguments for your own views. When you've actually considered other viewpoints, your own understanding gets deeper. Your arguments become more compelling because they're built on a wider foundation, not just an echo.
Right, makes sense. So if confirmation bias keeps us locked into our beliefs, the next one, anchoring bias, shows how we get stuck on, like, the first number we hear. Let's call it the power of first impressions, but specifically for numbers.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It describes our unconscious tendency to fixate, really latch on to the very first piece of information we get about something, especially if it's a number. That first number acts as an anchor, heavily influencing all our later judgments and decisions about that thing. And it happens whether that anchor is actually relevant or completely random.
It's incredibly sneaky. So like if I'm going into a salary negotiation and my potential boss throws out a low number first, How does that really affect me, even if I know it feels low?
Exactly. That initial offer, even if it's way below market rate, becomes the anchor. Your brain just grabs onto it. So then any slightly better offer they make later seems more generous in comparison. You might feel like a 10% bump from that low anchor is a huge win when the whole package might still be unfair. You end up negotiating against that first, possibly arbitrary number instead of negotiating based on your actual worth or the market value. Behavioral research shows this bias can skew final decisions by like 20% sometimes?
20%, that's
Hmm.
significant. That means you could be leaving serious money or value on the table without even realizing it. How does this play out in everyday stuff like shopping? We all think we're finding bargains.
Oh, all the time. Think about online shopping. You see a gadget advertised as, say, 50% off, but it's 50% off a really high original price or compare at price. That initial higher price, even if it was maybe inflated or never the real selling price, acts as the anchor. It tricks your brain into thinking the sale price is a fantastic deal. Your perception of value gets anchored by a number that might not mean much. That's why stores love showing those original price tags they're deliberately using anchoring against you.
It makes total sense why those compare at prices always seem ridiculously high. Okay, so what's the counter move for you, the listener? How do you avoid getting hooked by that first number?
It's pretty straightforward, but again, it takes conscious effort. Before you make a decision, especially one involving a price, a salary, any important number, try to compare at least three alternatives first. Don't just react to the first offer or price tag you see. Do a little research. What are competitors charging? What's the industry standard salary? This helps reset your mental baseline. It gives you a much clearer, more objective sense of what's reasonable rather than just reacting to that initial anchor.
Okay, good tip. Moving on from first impressions with numbers.
Hmm.
Our next bias, the availability heuristic, often leads us to, well, judging risks by recall, not reality.
Hmm.
This one feels particularly relevant in our super media saturated world.
It really is critical today. This heuristic explains how you tend to judge how likely or risky something is based on how easily examples pop into your head, especially vivid, dramatic, or recent examples. We rely on mental availability rather than actual statistics or probabilities. Basically, what's easiest to remember feels most likely to happen.
And this can lead to some pretty irrational fears, right? Like you see a couple of viral videos about shark attacks, and suddenly you're canceling your beach trip because you're convinced the risk is huge. But you completely forget, or maybe never knew, that statistically, driving your car to the beach is way, way riskier than encountering a shark.
Yeah.
Your brain just glommed onto that vivid, scary image that was easy to recall, not the boring old data.
Exactly. And it's not just about sharks, obviously. This plays out everywhere. At work, maybe a colleague tells a dramatic story about how their new project failed spectacularly. That vivid story might make you overly cautious about trying something similar, even if statistically such projects usually succeed. Or think about investments. You see scary headlines about a market crash and you immediately want to pull your money out, even if long-term data suggests staying put or even buying low is the smarter move. There is actually a 2025 Nature study linking this heuristic to how fears get amplified in online echo chambers. Vivid anecdotes spread like wildfire and can easily drown out factual data, creating this distorted, collective sense of risk.
So we're essentially letting the most memorable, often the most emotionally charged stories hijack our rational decision-making. How do we fight back against relying on just the loudest story in our memory?
It really comes down to consciously seeking out the objective facts. Before you make a decision based on fear or a vivid anecdote, take a moment to check reliable statistics. What are the actual odds? What does the broader data say? Facts can be incredibly grounding. They can turn that gut-level fear, which comes from an easily recalled memory, into a calmer, more informed choice. Don't let the most dramatic headline or the stickiest story dictate your reality. Look for the numbers.
Good advice. Okay, our fourth bias today is the halo effect. This one often means one trait rules them all.
Right. This bias happens when one single positive trait, maybe someone's really attractive or charismatic, or a product has one really cool feature, is so impressive that it casts a positive halo over everything else about that person or thing. It makes you see the whole picture through a positive, sometimes overly rosy lens. That one bright spot kind of illuminates everything else, making it all look good.
Yeah, I can see this at work. You have that super charismatic teammate, right? Brilliant presenter, really rallies everyone. And because of that amazing speaking skill, maybe their slightly sloppy reports or missed deadlines just go unnoticed or get excused by you, by the boss, by everyone. That charisma creates this halo, making them seem competent across the board, even where they aren't.
Exactly. And what's really striking is how much this affects important judgments. Psychometric studies show this bias can warp hiring decisions by something like 15 to 25%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's significant. Think about dating apps too. You might swipe right instantly based on one amazing photo, right? And you unconsciously assume, wow, they must also be kind, funny, successful. Or influencers online, they often seem flawless because they carefully curate their posts to highlight one really attractive aspect, their looks, their lifestyle. That plays directly into the halo effect, shaping your overall perception. A single, strong, positive impression can really override a more balanced assessment.
15 to 25% on hiring. That's huge. Means we could be missing great candidates or promoting the wrong people just based on charm. So for you listening, how do you break that halo spell? How do you see the whole picture more clearly?
Well, a simple but pretty effective technique is to try and consciously separate the traits. If you're evaluating someone, like in hiring or even a product, try listing individual characteristics separately. Positives here, negatives, or areas for development there. Don't let that one shiny trait dominate the whole list. For hiring, maybe use a structured scorecard assessing different skills independently. For a product, literally list pros and cons. Just the act of writing them down separately helps that halo fade a bit, letting you see the whole picture more objectively beyond that initial blinding shine.
Makes sense. Break it down. Okay, finally, number 5, the self-serving bias. The classic, taking credit, shifting blame. This one feels very human.
Oh, it absolutely is. This bias is our inherent tendency to attribute our successes to our own internal qualities. That was my brilliance, my hard work. But when things go wrong, we quickly blame external factors or other people. Just bad luck, the team messed up, I didn't have the right resources.
Yeah, we've definitely all done it, even if we don't love admitting it. You nail a presentation. Yep, that was all me. It bombs. Well, the audience wasn't receptive or my slides weren't set up right. Kahneman points out that this bias, this kind of ego shield, might feel good in the moment, but it actually really stunts our growth. Because if you never truly analyze your role in a failure, how can you learn from it? You just keep hitting the same walls, repeating the same mistakes.
Exactly. And taking a step back, this has real consequences. There's research published in the Journal of Personality showing that people who are more self-aware, meaning people who can objectively assess their own part in both successes and failures, they actually succeed about 30% more often in the long run.
30% more success just from owning mistakes.
Yeah, it's not just about being humble, it's about genuine learning and adapting. You see this play out online too, right? In debates, maybe you credit your brilliant facts when you feel you've won a point. But if the discussion goes sour, you immediately blame trolls or people being irrational instead of thinking, maybe my communication style contributed to that breakdown. It robs you of the chance to get better at communicating or persuading.
That's a really powerful incentive, 30%. So for you listening, how do we hack our brains to build that crucial self-awareness, to get past that ego shield?
Okay, here's a simple but honestly incredibly powerful hack. Try ending each day with a quick wins and learns note. Just take 2 minutes, write down something that went well, give yourself that deserved credit. But then, crucially, also jot down something you could have done better, or what you learned from a mistake, without immediately making excuses or blaming others. Just owning both your victories and your slip-ups, honestly, it fuels real progress. It builds that self-awareness muscle. It's about accountability to yourself, which is the foundation for learning and evolving.
That's great. So we've covered a lot today. We've taken this really fascinating deep dive into 5 powerful cognitive biases, all grounded in Daniel Kahneman's amazing work in thinking fast and slow. From confirmation bias, locking you in echo chambers, to anchoring, sticking you on first numbers, the availability heuristic making vivid fears loom large, the halo effect blinding you with charm, and the self-serving bias protecting your ego but hindering growth. These mental shortcuts are definitely everywhere in your daily life, quietly shaping how you see the world and the choices you make.
But, and this is the really important part, the good news is you're not powerless against them. You now have some concrete tools and strategies to start outsmarting them. We didn't just identify the biases, we talked about their real impact and gave you practical ways to consciously counter them, ways to steer your thinking towards being more deliberate, more informed.
That really is the key, isn't it? These aren't just interesting ideas. We genuinely hope you tried just one of these fixes this week. Maybe you'll actively seek out that counter view tomorrow. Or maybe next time you're making a big purchase, you'll consciously compare 3 options first. Whatever it is, Just take that one small step. See how it feels. Experience that little shift in your own thinking.
And maybe consider this as a final thought. Think about how even a small, conscious shift in your own mental approach doesn't just stay with you, it can ripple outwards. It might transform not just your individual decisions, but maybe even improve the quality of information you consume, and perhaps even the information you share with others, leading potentially to a more nuanced, more insightful understanding for everyone involved in the conversation. Something to mull over.